Major breaking news involving our civil rights, believe it or not, dealing with the Trump administration. This is a big deal, but we're going to have to connect some dots. Specifically, the Trump administration's Department of Education's Office for Civil Rights has just made a major finding against the University of Pennsylvania, dealing with violations of the civil rights of certain students. This is a big deal because this is setting a precedent for what? For the kinds of remedies we can expect to see when, if and when, although I think it will be a when, the United States Department of Justice Office of Civil Rights finds problems and violations of the law by those agencies that issue concealed carry permits under their quote-unquote shall issue permitting regimes. Let's connect the dots, make you the smartest person in the room when we get right back. Hey folks, I'm Mark Smith, host of the Four Box Diner, proud American gun owner, constitutional attorney, member of the United States Supreme Court Bar, and I'm proud to say the top voice of the Second Amendment in America. Thank you, 2025 Gundies Awards. All right, so this is a big deal, folks. You may be like, Mark, what are we talking about this? How does this connect up to our right to keep and bear arms? Oh, yes, it does. And you'll see why in a moment. It was just announced late last night that the United States Department of Education, that's right, education, specifically the Education Department's Office of Civil Rights, which is all about advancing civil rights in the context of America's education system, including enforcing Title IX, which basically says that universities cannot discriminate on the basis of sex. Usually it means on the basis of, you can't discriminate against women historically. Right? That's how it's been viewed. That's what Title IX is known for, the law that basically gave rise to women's athletics. Now, this video is not to discuss the Department of Education or women's athletics or men competing in women's athletics per se. What this is about is showing you a pathway forward. Because think about what I'm saying here. We're going to discuss the United States Department of Education's Office for Civil Rights. What's going to relate to our Second Amendment rights, and this has already been announced, is the United States Department of Justice's Office for Civil Rights, run by that excellent attorney Harvey Dillon, has already launched investigations of, for example, the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department and their issuance, or lack thereof, if you will, of concealed carry permits. So I think it's important that we study what the Trump administration just did in terms of finding that the University of Pennsylvania violated federal civil rights law, i.e. Title IX, and the remedies that they are forcing upon the University of Pennsylvania. And the reason why I want to discuss this is because I want you out there in the Second Amendment movement to hear what I'm saying, observe what the Trump administration is doing in terms of enforcing Title IX against universities and governmental agencies that are thumbing their noses at civil rights. Because we can derive lessons from what the Trump administration is doing, lessons from the remedies being sought, lessons from the remedies being imposed upon, in this case, the University of Pennsylvania, and we can draw analogies and come up with new ways for we in the Second Amendment community to basically try to get the Trump administration to, for example, those law enforcement agencies that refuse to respect our Second Amendment rights. So for the purpose of this discussion, remove the words the University of Pennsylvania in your mind and insert, for example, the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department or some other local law enforcement agency, maybe the New York Police Department that issues licenses. Insert them in there, and then let's talk about the remedies. Because as I've explained to you before, American law all connects up as one big spider web. And lessons we learn dealing with enforcing civil rights in the context of the Department of Education, we can apply those lessons to enforcing our civil rights when it comes to our Second Amendment civil rights through the Department of Justice's Office for Civil Rights. See how it all connects up? So let's just talk briefly about what happened here. But the Trump administration has just made a finding They've just announced its finding that the University of Pennsylvania, UPenn, an Ivy League school in Philadelphia, I've spoken there before, it's a beautiful campus right there in Philadelphia, that UPenn has violated Title IX of basically the Civil Rights Act, Education Amendments of 1972. We don't need to get bored with the details. But the bottom line is that the Office of Civil Rights notified the University of Penn's president that the university's policy and practices violated Title IX by virtue of the fact they denied women equal opportunities, and they did so by permitting males, to compete in women's intercollegiate athletics and to occupy, the men that is, to occupy women-only intimate facilities like presumably showers, locker rooms, bathrooms, and so on. Well, the Office for Civil Rights in the Department of Education has issued a proposed settlement agreement, if you will, a resolution agreement to resolve these Title IX violations. And listen carefully. There's just been a finding by the Trump administration that UPenn violated Title IX. And what did Trump's administration now do? They said to UPenn, we're giving you 10 days to voluntarily resolve these violations of Title IX. And if you don't do that, we're going to UPenn are going to run the risk of a referral of this legal violation, these violations of the law. We're going to refer this matter to the United States Department of Justice for enforcement against you, University of Penn. Now, with that said, what are the remedies? And this is what I want you to listen carefully. Remember, there are rights and remedies. There's a finding that women that competed in intercollegiate sports for the University of Pennsylvania were discriminated against, and their rights under Title IX were violated. That's the finding by the Trump administration, that there's liability here. Think of it this way. It's analogous to if there's a finding of liability that the concealed carry permit issuers, the law enforcement agencies, the licensing divisions, whatever, that they violated the Second Amendment. That's the liability part. Now, once you have a liability finding that in this case the University of Penn violated the law, there's then the remedy stage. And this is what I want to talk about. The remedy is once you find, for example, a law enforcement agency has violated the Second Amendment rights of its citizens by not adequately issuing concealed carry permits or charging too much money or taking too long and delaying the process, whatever it is, in violation of the Second Amendment, or in the case of the University of Pennsylvania, violating Title IX, it's the same idea. What is the remedy? Now, let's talk about the remedy that the Trump administration wants to impose on the University of Pennsylvania. Then I'm going to talk about remedies that I think possibly can be imposed upon law enforcement agencies responsible for issuing concealed carry permits in shall-issue permitting regimes. When it comes to the University of Pennsylvania, this is what the Trump administration is recommending, or I should say proposing, really offering to settle this matter. The first requirement would be, under this proposed resolution agreement, is that the University of Pennsylvania would take the following actions. Number one, it would issue a statement to the university community stating that the university will comply with Title IX in all of its athletic programs moving forward. Number two, it would mean that the University of Pennsylvania would restore to all female athletes all individual athletic records, titles, honors, awards, or similar recognition for Division I swimming competitions misappropriated by male athletes competing in female categories. And last but not least, the University of Pennsylvania, if they agree to this deal with the Trump administration, would have to send a letter to each female athlete whose individual recognition is restored, expressing an apology on behalf of the University of Pennsylvania for allowing her educational experience and athletics to be marred by sex discrimination. That's the remedy. That's a pretty serious remedy that the Trump administration is seeking through the Department of Education's Office for Civil Rights. So that got me thinking in light of this background. Remember, all these are analogous to each other. We learn from different areas of the law to advance our Second Amendment rights. It's all connected up. It's a big spider web. You pull one part of the spider web, the entire spider web moves, right? It's the same way with American law. If the Trump administration establishes powerful precedents that can be used to punish people who have violated the civil rights of Americans in the context of Title IX, let's say, that precedent can in turn be used to punish or remedy the ills and violations of our Second Amendment rights when it comes to those that have not appropriately respected it in various ways. There's many countless ways we've talked about. I'm just using for the purposes of this video licensing divisions because I think that's a clear-cut violation of the Constitution. Of course, there's many others, but I think we're just talking about licensing for the purposes of this video. Now, off the top of my head, some of the remedies that I thought could be imposed by the Trump administration to, let's say, law enforcement agencies that refuse to recognize or behave properly or issue concealed carry permits in a timely fashion at the right amount of money and so on and so on. What do you want to say? First is that the Trump administration could say, moving forward, you have to recognize permitless carry. That's right. The Trump administration could say to a law enforcement agency that you must recognize and moving forward have a permitless carry system of some sort because you have shown yourself incapable of adequately complying with the Second Amendment and American law when it comes to the deployment of and effectuation of a shall issue permit regime. That would be one possibility. A second possibility is what I've talked about before, is the way a shall issue permitting regime should really work, which is this way. That the Trump administration can say to these agencies that as soon as an applicant has filed a form that says they are eligible for a concealed carry permit with all the proper documentation, at that moment in time, that individual is allowed under the law of that state to conceal carry, period, full stop. And then therefore, if the law enforcement agency wants to take a month or 2 months or 6 months to investigate that person to confirm that they're not a prohibited person, if they want to waste their time doing that, who cares? Because during that entire time period where the law enforcement agency is looking into your background, you're carrying a gun. You're concealed carrying. The problem today is the incentives are backwards. Because you're not allowed to conceal carry in a place like California until you have a license. And you can't get a license until, let's say, the Sheriff's Department in Los Angeles or one of these other counties, completes their background check and investigation of you. The government agencies have every single incentive to drag their feet and slow walk the process. If you flip it, as I've explained before, and say that as soon as I apply for a concealed carry permit in Los Angeles, I can carry a firearm, I can carry a handgun, and then they can take as much time as they want to see if I'm a bad person, if I violate the law or I'm a prohibited person, whatever it is they're looking for. That creates the proper incentive for them to actually move fast with the investigation as opposed to the status quo in these places, which is that they move slow. That could be required in, let's say, a consent decree or an injunction or some sort of resolution between the Trump administration and the federal government, the Department of Justice on the one hand, and these law enforcement agencies that issue concealed carry permits on the other. Again, analogous to what the Trump administration is proposing to UPenn in the context of a finding that there was sex discrimination violating Title IX by the university. The other thing, of course, could be done is the awarding of attorney's fees to anyone that is sued. Under 42 U.S.C. 1988, you can award individual attorney's fees to anyone that had to retain a lawyer to fight for the right to keep and bear arms in those jurisdictions. And perhaps you can just say that that jurisdiction has to waive all fees in all respects for the purposes of issuing a license for a period of a couple years as a remedy for the prior violations of the Second Amendment. Now, again, I'm shooting this video talking about the remedies of the United States Department of Education in the context of Title IX civil rights violations, not because I'm per se interested in what's going on with Title IX. I'm doing it so that you out there who are extremely smart, intelligent, involved in the Second Amendment communities that you can start to put your thinking cap on now. You can brainstorm among your friends in your Second Amendment related organizations, in your gun clubs, wherever it is that you hang out with fellow Second Amendment supporters, online and whatnot. And you can start to share with me perhaps at Four Boxes Diner on X, for example, or wherever you feel like you want to share this information, and start brainstorming possible remedies that we in the Second Amendment community can be urging, for example, the Trump administration to be adopting if they make a finding that one of these law enforcement agencies across America are indeed violating the Second Amendment in some way. Again, I'm sure the Trump administration has got many brilliant lawyers. They certainly do. I'm sure they got lots of great ideas. But of course, we in the Second Amendment community can come up with a lot of great ideas too. And I'm only talking about this Department of Education Title IX issue because, again, it illustrates that the Trump administration is being extremely aggressive in pursuing civil rights actions and findings and investigations on those issues that it cares about. And I can assure you, it is crystal clear from their actions that the Second Amendment is an item, is an issue that the Trump administration is very, very focused on. I mean, every time you turn around and read another article on X or in AMOLand or whatnot, there's another person at the ATF being terminated from the old regimes, and some new excellent Second Amendment attorney is being installed, like Rob Leiter, who's now the chief counsel at the ATF, as an illustration of that bigger point. All right, folks, so there you have it. Hope you enjoyed today's episode. Make sure you follow me on X at @4boxstar. Don't forget to subscribe both on YouTube and Rumble, and keep your ideas coming, your comments coming, the good and the bad and the ugly. I try to get through all of them, and I learn a lot from them. Even if I don't respond to you, a lot of what you say I do think about, and keep that in mind. And you never know when dots get connected for positive developments when it comes to our rights, our Second Amendment rights, and our Constitution, and our Republican form of government. So there you have it, folks. I look forward to talking to you again soon. We'll see you again very soon, I hope, here at the Four Boxes Diner.
Orders up. Table 2A.